Welcome back to the Black Media Man Cave and to another review for a modern movie. Today's review is for a 2022 film that was just released to a wide audience in July of 2023. It's called The Blackening. You know how in most horror movies how black people are usually the ones to die first? Well, if we don't die first, they definitely get our ass by the end credits. Well, The Blackening asked the question, what if the whole cast was black? They can't kill us all first, can they? The Blackening is a horror comedy film that started life as a Comedy Central skit produced by 3Peat Entertainment. In the skit, 8 people become trapped in a house with a crazy killer outside, and since he didn't anticipate everybody being black, he agrees to let them all live if they sacrifice the person who's the blackest out of them all. What follows is 8 people either trying to convince each other that they're either not as black as the others or accusing the rest of the crew of being more black for various reasons. In the end, one of them is foiled by the fact that he carries hot sauce in his bag. It doesn't get any blacker than that, right, Hillary Clinton? The sketch was written by comedian Dwayne Perkins, who also appears in the sketch. And eventually, it caught the eye of Tracy Oliver, who wrote the movie Girls Trip, and she approached Perkins with the idea of turning the Blackening sketch into a full-length film, with her joining in as a co-writer. Handling director duties was Tim Story, a name you might not recognize, but somebody whose movies you've definitely seen at least once, since he directed Barbershop, both ride-along movies, and those early 2000s Fantastic Four movies. I think the fact that both Oliver and Story were so impressed and inspired by the sketch was an early indication that a lot of love and effort was about to be put into making The Blackening a success. And to me, they nailed it. It's kind of crazy that up until this point, nobody has thought to make an all-black horror film that puts black people in a position to put our money where our mouth is, so to speak, and prove that we can outsmart a killer. There's been plenty of horror movies over the years that attempted to subvert the genre, with the most popular one probably being Scream, which was one of many movies that Dwayne Perkins says was an inspiration for him. Then you had movies like Cabin in the Woods that further subverted the genre and made fun of the dumb decisions that people make in these movies. But you know the one thing that those movies were usually missing? Black people. I mean, the first Scream movie didn't even have a single black person in it, and the sequel killed off over half the black people by the end. So needless to say, it was long overdue for a film that not only subverts the idea that we always die, but that we always die first. At the beginning, The Blackening introduces generic stereotypical characters that aren't really unlike black characters that we've already seen in various horror movies throughout the years. But it's in how The Blackening cleverly flips the stereotypes on you that makes the movie so unique. But before I get too ahead of myself, let me tell you about the premise. 9 college friends are invited to a game night party at a cabin in the woods by their friend Morgan, played by Yvonne Orji, most known for Insecure. She and her boyfriend Sean, played by Saturday Night Live alumni Jay Farrow, arrive first to set up decorations, and in the process, discover a mysterious game in a back room with an extremely racist Sambo face on the front called The Blackening. The game gives them simple instructions: pick a card and answer questions correctly in 2 minutes or die. Gee, the game makes it so hard to choose. So basically, it's literally a black card trivia game where a wrong answer will get your figurative black card revoked permanently. They don't take it too seriously and even joke about their question, which was name a black character that survived a horror film. Sean incorrectly guesses Jada Pinkett and Omar Epps from Scream 2, but the funniest part of this scene is when they theorize that the only reason that Jada and Omar died so early is because the studio didn't have the budget to keep them until the end, which makes them silently exchange worried looks at each other. You know, because they're probably the highest paid actors in this movie. I like this way of them breaking the fourth wall without actually breaking it, and I must have went back and laughed at this part at least 10 times. That kind of humor sets the tone for the entire film, where the characters are self-aware, but not self-aware enough to keep themselves out of trouble. The next day, the other 7 arrive, and like I said earlier, the movie starts out with basic archetypes. There's your handsome ladies man or jock named Namdi, represented by Cinqua Walls, who's becoming somewhat of a regular on this channel. There's your corny guy or nerd, Clifton, played by Jermaine Fowler from the Coming to America sequel, the gay friend Dwayne, played by writer Dwayne Perkins himself, the loud and vulgar big girl, Shanika, played by ex Mayo, a fashionable and probably sorority girl, Lisa, played by Antoinette Robinson, the street dude, King, played by Melvin Gregg, and last but not least, the biracial girl, Allison, played by Grace Byers. Now those are all very basic descriptions, but don't get used to them, because by the end of The Blackening, they turn those characters completely upside down. That's part of what makes The Blackening so good. It takes your preconceived notions of what you expect from these characters and has them either do the complete opposite in most situations or exactly what you expect them to do. Because after all, up until this point, as an audience, we've always talked about what we would do in these situations. But The Blackening reminds us that not all black people think or react the same way. We're all different and not a monolith, so thinking that we'll all do the same things when faced with death is naive. For instance, the movie recreates the sketch it was based on in a scene in the film where everybody gets locked in the game room and forced to play The Blackening. Now in the past, the characters in this situation would be dumb or played for comedy relief. But remember, these characters all met in college, so they might not be geniuses, but they're smart enough to work together to answer the questions that I'm gonna be honest with you, I myself probably would have failed half of the questions if I had to do it alone. Except for the black TV shows and movie stuff. I think I would have been alright with that stuff. They do great, even when the game tries to trick them, until they're faced with the decision of sacrificing the blackest friend. I don't want to reveal too much, but this scene is at the center of what makes The Blackening required viewing. And from this point on, it completely flips what you think you know about each character, or black people in general, and even challenges not only the way we treat each other, but some of our own preconceived notions. I was not prepared for how smartly written this movie was, or how funny. Damn near every line in every scene is funny. It does have a few weaknesses though. For starters, it's a bit of a stretch to call it a horror film. There's some blood and violence, sure, but nothing too gory. And maybe it's the fact that today's horror is so over the top, it makes The Blackening look tame in comparison. Then there's the scene where the group is forced to split up briefly. Although the setup is hilarious, with Allison barely being able to spit it out through vomit, splitting up the characters actually kind of kills the vibe, and the chemistry they had going definitely worked better when they were all together. Also, even though I like the ending, it's not fleshed out incredibly well. It's serviceable to just get to the end, but this is a case where the movie could have used another 30 minutes to get more of the point across, especially since it's so good. I wouldn't have been mad at all at a longer runtime. Lastly, the killer in this movie is as generic gets. Now from here on out, I'll be talking about some spoilers and what happens with the characters and the ending. So you know the routine. I'll put a timestamp in the comments for anybody who hasn't seen the movie yet and wants to skip this part. Got it? Good. So I want to go back to the scene where they're all in the game room real quick. Despite this just being a remake of the sketch that made the movie famous, it's still my favorite part of the movie because it dives deeper into each of their personalities, and it's here where we learn how each character feels about each other's blackness, or lack thereof. Nnamdi is a literal African, but quickly brings up that he was born in the States when it's convenient. Kang is accused of being the most black because he's gangster, but he says he can't be because, plot twist, he has a white wife. Then when Dwayne is accused of being the most black, he counters back with the fact that he's gay, which has nothing to do with nothing, but it brings to mind how there are certain groups you just can't single out. The whole scene is so smartly written, and it's my favorite because these are real conversations that black people have with each other on a daily basis. Should an African be considered an African American? Is the gay rights movement equivalent to the black civil rights movement? Should biracial people be able to ride the fence and pick whatever race is convenient at the moment? Yeah, this is comedy, but there's also some real life commentary going on here. Plus, like I said, the movie throws in the trash what you usually expect from these characters. You would think that Nnamdi is going to be the big strong savior, but he's no tougher than anybody else there. All them muscles for nothing. The ones who actually fight back are the ones you least expect. Then there's a scene when Shanika has a chance to escape for help, but has to swim across a lake. She ends up being Michael Phelps in that bitch, despite Kang questioning her ability to swim because not only is she black, but she's also plus size. The expectations constantly being subverted keeps you on your toes and keeps the movie entertaining. What about the killer though? Well, the mastermind ends up being their friend Clifton. He hired two rednecks to stalk and kill his friends. And why would Clifton want to kill his friends from college? Well, 10 years ago, they had a party just like this one, and at said party, Clifton played spades for the very first time, but made a mistake and cost him and his partner the game. Because of this, the crew not only rejected him, but also revoked his black card. Upset at this, Clifton gets drunk, drives away, and then kills a woman with his car, which landed him in jail for 4 years. That's right, all of this nonsense is only happening because of a game of spades. The silliness of that fits right in with the tone of the film, and also it's super relatable for me because I myself have never learned to play spades and have been vilified for that for years. So it's hilarious for me. Ain't nobody got to die because of that though. It goes deeper than just the spades though, since Clifton not fitting in has mostly to do with the fact that he's supposedly the least blackest person there for various reasons. He's never seen Friday, he doesn't like Beyonce, and he voted for Trump.
Twice?
And because of that, he was voted out of the room earlier to die. It brings up a good point. Does the fact that he doesn't follow the black crowd make him less black and worthy of being shunned? Because after all, everybody at the house is different in some way, but they're different only within a black box. The movie questions the criteria on what makes a black person black and whether we can afford to exclude people based off a different lifestyle. Because just like Clifton says, had they all just worked together from the beginning, none of this would have happened. I also gotta point out how great of an acting job that Jermaine Fowler did as Clifton. I was impressed. Also, I love the fact that the movie allows us to back up our trash talk because everybody survives, just like we said always would happen if we were in a horror movie. Overall, The Blackening is an excellent film, and I dare say required viewing whether you're a fan of horror or comedy. I can confidently say that this is our Scream movie and will hopefully be a launching pad for several more films that explore similar themes and life experiences. I'm no longer giving grades for modern reviews because if I'm going to do a black track on it one day, why grade it right now? So from here on out, modern reviews get a recommendation to watch it now or watch it later, and The Blackening gets a resounding watch it now. It's smart, funny, entertaining, and well acted, and is sure to become a cult classic. And if you want to hear about more classics, cult or otherwise, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to tell your friends about my channel. Also, make sure you turn on notifications so you don't miss my next video. Until next time, I'll holla at you.